5-4, 1920s to 1940s, Lesson 4B. The essential question for this is, what were the principal events related to the involvement of the United States in World War II? Again, this is just meaning the important events that happened that led to the U.S. involvement in the World War. Dictators Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, and Hideaki Tojo used military aggression against the rest of Europe and formed the Tripartite Pact between Japan, Germany, and Italy, which is the Axis powers. European leaders tried to stay out of World War II. However, when Germany invaded Poland, France and Britain allied to stop them. France was defeated, and Germany was continuously bombing Britain, which was the Battle of Britain. And while Germany invaded the USSR, America stayed neutral, even though they've provided Britain and the USSR with supplies. Germany thought that the Treaty of Versailles was unfair and had caused the economic fall in Germany. Through nationalism, Germany avenged itself by trying to take over all of Europe. The objectives. By the end of this video, you should be able to identify the Allied and Axis powers, describe the events that led to U.S. involvement in World War II, summarize events in the European theater, summarize the event that led to the surrender of the Axis power in the European theater, summarize the events in the Pacific theater, summarize the events that led to the surrender of the Axis powers in the Pacific theater. Bombing of Pearl Harbor. The goal of the Japanese was to establish control of the Far East in order to assure the economic prosperity of the Japanese people. After the bombing of the U.S. Pacific Fleet of Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, President Roosevelt asked the United States Congress to declare war on Japan. So we declared war on Japan, and just Japan, not Germany. Then Germany and Italy declared war on the United States in order to support their ally. So this is the effect of us declaring war on Japan, thereby becoming the Axis powers. So that means that Germany and Japan, and it doesn't say this, but Italy is also one, became the Axis powers. And the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union, which is also called the USSR, became known as the Allied powers, or the Allies. And I just wanted to show you a visual of the Allied powers, which was the United States, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the Axis powers, which was Germany, Italy, and Japan. You do need to know who was in the Allied and who was in the Axis, and what they were called. Recap. Because Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, the U.S. declared war on Japan, which caused Germany and Italy to declare war on the United States. Rise of European Dictator Part 4. The goal of the Allies was to stop the Axis power and defeat them unconditionally, meaning so they wouldn't come back, so that they could not invade other countries again. The strategies used by the Allied powers in the European theater, which means when it talks about the European theater, it just means it happened in Europe, included heavy bombing raids on Germany. That's one. Landing of ground troops on the peripheral of German-occupied lands. That's 2. The Allied landing in North Africa, which was Operation Torch, you're going to need to know that, was to free the Mediterranean Sea from German control, protect the oil fields of the Middle East, and to take care of some pressure off the USSR, who was taking heavy losses as it was being invaded by Germany. This right here is the 3rd. The USSR was able to hold off the German advance and then began defeating them on the Eastern Front. Allied landings in Italy, which is our 4th, brought the surrender of the Italians, but German forces continued to bitterly fight in the Italian peninsula. You do need to know that Italy surrendered way before Germany did. In the European theater, the Allied powers bombed Germany, freed the Mediterranean Sea Operation Torch, and protected the oil fields in the Middle East and caused Italy to surrender. The invasion of Normandy on D-Day. provided a second front against the Germans in the west and provided some relief for Russian troops. Again, the USSR. The invasion of Normandy led to the eventual surrender of the Axis powers in Europe, but the Allied powers continued to struggle against a Japanese army that was determined to fight until all was lost. So this means that now we have won the war in Europe, and we still have to worry about Japan. So this means that now Germany surrendered. The invasion of Normandy, D-Day, led to the surrender of the Axis powers in the European theater, called VE Day, which means victory in Europe. The Rise of European Dictators, Part 5. The purpose of the island hopping strategy in the Pacific Theater, which means Japan, and again, Japan is in the Pacific Ocean, which is why it's called the Pacific Theater, was to take only strategic Japanese held islands in order to move within range of the gasoline tank capacity of American planes so that they could bomb Japan in preparation for an invasion of the Japanese home islands. The Americans had heavy casualties as they fought to take Japanese occupied islands because of the Japanese unwillingness to accept defeat. We tried using island hopping, which is basically what the name suggests. So they have islands, and we just hopped from one to the other. Because Japan is so far from the United States, it's hard to get there without being able to refuel. So we tried to island hop to keep our planes from running out of gas. Allied powers used island hopping in the Pacific Theater, but heavy American losses caused the U.S. to look elsewhere for a solution. Rise of European Dictators, Part 6. An ailing President Roosevelt died, and Vice President Harry S. Truman was sworn in as president. As the preparations for the invasion of Japan continued, scientists successfully tested the world's first atomic bomb. The decision of whether to risk many more American lives with an invasion of Japan or to use the atomic bombs fell to President Truman. The United States dropped two bombs, one on Hiroshima and one on Nagasaki, which led to the surrender of the Japanese and about the end of World War II. So the atomic bomb led to the surrender of the Japanese. To end the war quickly in the Pacific Theater, the U.S. dropped two atomic bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, called VJ Day, which means victory in Japan.